What is going on in the market lately? Up is down, down is up. They're printing more money, more stimulus coming out, another 3.5 trillion, which is literally how much money they make in revenue from taxes for an entire year printed in one stimulus on top of all the other ones that have already been printed. Tons and tons of cash diluting into the system, and somehow precious metals has corrected and fallen. The dollar index, after all of this printing, is somehow at 93, and Bitcoin happens to be having the reaction you would expect out of precious metals, where Bitcoin right now is back up to 46,000 at the time I'm making this video, almost 860 billion on the market cap for Bitcoin. Currently, the precious metals market, let me see over here. Silver price is $23.65 on the ask. Gold is $17.34 on the ask, and platinum is just under 1,000. It actually fell under 1,000. Giving platinum away. Not financial advice. My videos are not financial advice. Disclaimer, but that just seems ridiculous for the price of platinum. Palladium is actually holding up pretty strong at 2,700. You guys know me, and you know that I love precious metals that have utility. The industrial precious metals, I've always liked the industrial precious metals more so than gold. To see silver, platinum this low, in my personal opinion, not financial advice, it's a huge buy signal to me personally. It just seems getting to a point where you want to buy when everyone is scared. You don't want to buy when everyone is hyping it up and all of that. You kind of want to buy when there's a little bit of nervous characteristics in the market. And seeing what's happening with Bitcoin here, the reason I wanted to label this video Bitcoin versus gold versus silver is because each one of them, I wanted to bring up some points and why I think this is happening. You know, before I get into it, I have to say some people that are into gold and are gold stackers might not like what I have to say, but please hear me out with an open mind. I happen to think in the beginning, I thought that Bitcoin and gold would kind of move in unison, and, you know, maybe Bitcoin would be the faster horse in the race, which gold is still going to be a horse and kind of trail behind it. But because Bitcoin is so new and it's got such a low market cap, it has much more potential for more of a explosive growth. But what we're seeing right now is kind of a little different because we're seeing gold falling back. I mean, just to put it into perspective, the all-time high, I believe it was either in 2011 or 2012, prior to this last all-time high of last year, this was in 2011 or 2012, it was around 1,800. So literally 10 years ago, prior to all of this printing going on, gold was higher than it is right now. That's a little scary to me. When I think of that, it just is almost laughable to the point where you go, this is just being either some sort of manipulation, keeping the price down, or just up is down, down is up. What is going on here? What I happen to think is happening is when I observe the market cap of Bitcoin being at 853 billion and the market cap of gold somewhere around 12 trillion range. Now it's pulled back maybe around 11 trillion at this point. We don't really know the exact market cap of gold. It's somewhere in that range. Like even give or take a couple trillion. Like we don't know the exact market cap, which is kind of scary with gold. When you realize just how large that market cap is, it's not easy for gold to double. For gold to go from 12 trillion to 24 trillion, let's say, or 11 trillion to 22 trillion, that's quite a bit of money flooding into that. However, if some of the people who are holding gold look at Bitcoin right now and go, I kind of like the idea of a digital asset that is not connected to any country, not connected to any government. I like the idea of a decentralized digital asset. 90 some odd percent of the dollars in the system right now are already digital. So we're already in a digital society, so to speak, worldwide. This is very interesting, this Bitcoin thing. We might be seeing some people selling out of gold and going into Bitcoin. Now, that's not to say that there isn't enough out there for both of them to move up at the same time. And the reason I bring silver into it as well is because silver's market cap and Bitcoin's market cap are very close. So you have silver's market cap is around 1.2 to 1.4 trillion, in that range. So Bitcoin right now is 853 billion, just under a trillion, 150 billion under a trillion. And silver is just barely over a trillion. So they're very close in their market cap. However, you have gold out there that is very high on the market cap, up there over 10 trillion, somewhere between 11, 12, 13 trillion, somewhere in that range. It's kind of wild to think that we don't know the exact number. Nobody can tell you exactly how many ounces of gold are out there to the ounce. That's what's so brilliant about Bitcoin, is you know exactly how much is out there. What I happen to think is, because of the fact that gold is not used in industry nearly as much as silver or platinum or palladium, it's not really an industrial metal. It has industrial use case. A small percentage of it, somewhere around 10-15%, is used for industrial application. However, the large lion's share of gold out there is held for monetary value. So if there is a competitor out there, namely Bitcoin, that's getting a lot of press right now, you see companies like Tesla buying the 1.5 billion, and they just said recently that they are keeping the Bitcoin. They're holding it. You see Michael Saylor out there holding billions in Bitcoin. You see these companies, Grayscale's out there now, and all these different things happening. The possibility of an ETF. In these companies are coming into Bitcoin. They're not coming into gold. They're not converting their balance sheets into gold. They have a small percentage of gold, but some of them do. But for the most part, a lot of them are going more towards Bitcoin. Now, maybe not all of them, but some of them certainly are going to Bitcoin. Because of that, it's not a long shot to think that a couple trillion of gold's market cap could go into Bitcoin. But here's where it gets interesting. Where it gets interesting is if people are selling out of gold, and say they even go into silver, or they want to go into platinum, or they want to go into a different precious metal than gold. They go, I want to get into industrial precious metals, or they go to its competitor, Bitcoin. I didn't used to see them as competitors, but in this current environment right now, it seems because companies are moving towards Bitcoin much more so than they're moving towards gold, they're seeing it as much more of a faster horse in the race, so to speak. This is where they kind of are in a short-term competition, it seems. And it's not a long shot to think it could take a few trillion off of gold's market cap in the near term. Now, in the long term, you have 900 trillion some odd dollars out there in assets worldwide, in financial assets worldwide. I think that in the near term, we could see some competition, but in the long term, it might all the assets move up in unison. Personally, I would much rather, if I'm given the choice between gold or silver, personally, I'm going to choose silver. If I'm given the choice between gold or Bitcoin in this current environment with everything that Bitcoin has going for it, to me, I would much rather be in Bitcoin. Now, that's me personally. And I promised on my channel I will never sway the truth or what I'm genuinely feeling in my heart. I have been contacted by multiple companies trying to endorse a gold-backed blockchain based crypto, so to speak. I think that idea is foolish. If you're going to hold gold, hold gold. Buy gold and hold gold. It's a storage of wealth. It's a way to save your buying power in gold. I think it still will, over the process of time, hold some value there. It's not like it's just going to crumble to nothing. It's gold. But at the end of the day, I think Bitcoin is the faster horse in the race, and it's the first asset that's ever existed that is closed. That's 21 million capped. I know there's some smaller tokens out there that have a cap as well, but they're not like Bitcoin. They're not being adopted like this. It's just, let's say it's the first thing that is over 500 billion, let's say, that is closed looped, that is decentralized, not connected to any country or any government, and completely closed loop. And you can take custody of your Bitcoin and put it on a cold storage device and literally have your money anywhere in the world in your head. Carry your asset in your brain, keep your password in your head, and go anywhere in the world and have all access to your Bitcoin anywhere you go. That's an incredible feature there. Also, if you're a company and you want your balance sheet to be somewhat liquid and you want to just move it into wherever you want at the speed of light, you can do that with Bitcoin. You can't really do that with gold. The problem that is with gold when it comes to these companies, if they want to actually own the gold, they have to pay a depository, they have to store it somewhere, something like that has to happen, or you're going with some sort of ETF of that kind. That has a lot of problems. The problem is when you trust a custodian, that has literally never worked out in our favor. And this is why I'm not a fan of these blockchain-based gold companies. If you're going to own it, own it. Just like with Bitcoin, not your keys, not your coins. With gold, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Same thing with silver. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. I will always say that, because when you trust a custodian, throughout the process of time, they have always ran off with the precious metals. It just always happens that way. They misplace it, they get robbed, or they steal it themselves. Along those lines. So if I'm going to trust a blockchain-based gold company, it's like, is this not the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again throughout history and expecting a different result? It's pretty much the same thing. So I wanted to talk about these three specifics here, because when it comes in the short term here, in the next let's say 6 months from now, somewhere in the 6-month period here, it's not a long shot. I know I just said that, but it's not. Let me rephrase. It's harder to move something that's 12 trillion. It's harder to move something that's 12 trillion to double to 24 trillion. We just saw Bitcoin go from 33 or 28, I think was the bottom, and then now it's back up to almost 46,000 as I'm making this video. Jumped, what's that? 15, 16, 17, 18,000 in a couple weeks here, 3 weeks here. That volatility is intense because the market cap is so low. You have major on-ramps to Bitcoin like Cash App, like Gemini Exchange, like Coinbase, all of these different on-ramps where you can just instantaneously go, boop, I'm buying Bitcoin, right? The same on-ramp doesn't really exist for gold. You can buy an ETF, but you got to do a bit of research. There aren't people just impulse buying gold in the same way that they're impulse buying Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin also has so much more press, so much more popularity because of social media talking about Bitcoin. It's really, it has so much more potential in the near term. Now, that doesn't change that gold can be a storage of wealth. It's just saying that if gold goes up 20%, let's say, Bitcoin might go up 200% or more in that same time period that it takes gold to go up that bit. I think in this near term, if Bitcoin was the same market cap as gold, we'd see them both being somewhat less volatile. Now, gold has pulled back quite a bit, but not nearly the same kind of volatility that we see with Bitcoin going to over 60,000, down under 30,000, back up to 46,000. That kind of volatility happens because the market cap is so low. And that's why in my videos, I always try to stress the market caps. Because if you just really think about it from just a super macro perspective and just kind of overly simplify it, it's really hard to move a $12 trillion cap in comparison to a little bit over $1 trillion, or in Bitcoin's case, under $1 trillion. That's why I look at silver and I go, okay, if I have to choose between silver or gold, and I'm in the tangibles, or if I have to choose between gold and platinum, I'm going to choose platinum. If I have to choose between silver and gold, I'm going to choose silver. If I have to choose between gold and palladium, I'm going to choose palladium, because I want the metal that I know is getting eaten up. The demand is going to eventually exceed the supply. And if it doesn't, it's going to get to a situation where it's going to have to pay more money to get it out of the hands that hold these metals. I just see that happening over time with the precious metals that are getting eaten up by industry. So when I'm given the choice between the two, I'm going towards industrial precious metals. If I'm given the choice between gold and Bitcoin right now, it's Bitcoin. It's just very obvious to me that the on-ramp and the potential of Bitcoin is more so than gold in the near term. Again, that doesn't take away from the storage of wealth of gold, but I just wanted to kind of lay out my thesis on why we might be seeing gold pull back. It's very interesting because the stock market is somewhat flat. We've seen the stock market somewhat flat. Bitcoin is just skyrocketing. Just in the last 7 days, it's up 20%. In the last 7 days, I think it's somewhere around 40%, the bounce from 28 to 45. I mean, this is getting to a situation here where it's almost a double off. It'll slowly get to a double off the bottom if it breaks over 50 here with a little bit of a run. So that happens because the market cap is so low. It also happens, so the market cap is low, the on-ramp is high. You have much more ease of buying it. So there's far less resistance when it comes to acquiring Bitcoin. And then you also have the situation where companies are converting their balance sheets into Bitcoin. Now you have countries that are accepting Bitcoin as a currency, like El Salvador, and that's starting a domino effect as well. What would happen if a sovereign trust ends up going and buying Bitcoin and does it publicly? There's so many wild cards there with Bitcoin where it could really make it skyrocket. And again, when you have $900 trillion worth of assets that are going to be looking for a safe haven, if not now, in the very near future, it makes a lot of sense for it to go into precious metals and Bitcoin. So just because I'm more bullish on Bitcoin than I am on gold doesn't change that I think that all precious metals as a whole are a safe haven to be. But if I'm going to rank them, so to speak, or if I'm going to lay out why I think gold is pulling back here, I think there's better opportunities out there than gold. Just point blank. I think that's what investors are looking at. They're going, wow, there's other opportunities out there. I'd rather be in platinum. I think platinum is way too cheap here, under 1,000. Hypothetically, just saying that. I think silver is at 23.62 is like, you can bet that I'm very interested in it, and that's why I've been gone for a little bit. I've been kind of figuring out my portfolio myself, my personal portfolio and my company's portfolio in this time period. I also have done a little bit of changes around here as well, if you might have noticed, but I'm definitely not stopping anything. That's for sure. It's a very interesting time in the market, and times like this blood in the streets. It separates the wolves from the sheep. That's what it's saying. So right now it's like you look at what's going on, there's opportunity there. I was interested in Bitcoin. I was publicly buying Bitcoin and saying that I thought Peter Schiff was wrong when the videos are posted here on YouTube back when Bitcoin was 10,000. The first Bitcoin I ever bought was under 10,000. And so I kept talking about Bitcoin all the way up to 60. I even was bullish at 60, and I still would be bullish at 60 because I know the potential of Bitcoin. It would be, some people go all in on Bitcoin. I think personally it's foolish to go all in, and it's equally foolish to have none. However, my conviction in Bitcoin has grown after seeing what I've seen, after using cold storage, after talking with more people about Bitcoin, talking with more hedge fund type individuals, and learning what's going on with all the mining operations and all this. Very interesting point between Bitcoin and gold I wanted to talk about before we close out this video here. And I apologize if I'm a little rusty. It's been about 2 weeks, been really working hard and just kind of moving things around myself. But gold miners, as soon as they mine the gold, they look to sell it to the market. So that's what happens with gold. As soon as they're mining it, they sell it to the market. Very, very few of them, if any of them, hold the gold on their balance sheets. But what we're seeing with Bitcoin is Bitcoin miners that are heavily funded by Wall Street. They are mining Bitcoin and then keeping the Bitcoin that they mine for their balance sheet. We have never really seen something like that. It's very rare that a miner wants to hold it on their balance sheet like that. Maybe if there's a pullback like this, the silver miners, the gold miners want to hold on to it temporarily, but we're not seeing a situation like with Bitcoin where these miners are specifically wanting to keep the Bitcoin for their balance sheets. That was a very big tell for me that this is somewhat related between the two. But if you really think about it, if gold is at 12 trillion, 11 trillion, and it gives up, just say 1 trillion, say 1 trillion of the gold market wants to move over to Bitcoin, and maybe another trillion wants to move over to silver. That really, it doubles the two, roughly, more than doubles Bitcoin and just barely under doubles silver. And that only takes 2 trillion off their 12 trillion, 11 trillion cap with gold. So if gold loses the monetary aspect of it in the near term, because the industrial use of it is so low, somewhere around 10-15% of gold actually being used in industry between jewelry and electronics and stuff, not nearly the same amount being used on a percentage basis as silver or platinum or palladium or rhodium. If it loses that monetary aspect and that monetary aspect drifts into Bitcoin, it can really move the needle of Bitcoin. So while gold, it's very, very hard to get gold to double to 24 or 22 trillion, wherever it is right now on the market cap, it's not very hard to see another 800 billion get put into Bitcoin. especially because the on-ramp is so easy to get into Bitcoin. And the other thing about it is the ease of being your own reserve bank with Bitcoin. I've talked about this in the past on the channel, and I'm sure I'll talk about it a lot more in the future. It is much harder to be a reserve bank with gold than it is to be a reserve bank with Bitcoin. And I have to recognize that when you have cold storage for the price of a little bit over $100, you can literally own your Bitcoin on your own device with your own seed phrase and completely have your Bitcoin outside of the exchanges, outside of Coinbase, and have full custody. But here's the kicker. You don't have to pay any percentage. So if you have your gold in a depository, or if you have it, in some sort of fund or whatever it might be, there's usually a percentage, whether it's 1%, 2% annually, that gets chipped away in interest against you. You don't have that with Bitcoin. You could have full custody and there is no interest there, which is very interesting. To store it is free. That's a very, very I would say the two biggest utilities of Bitcoin is the ability to be your own reserve bank for so cheap and have full access to your money and have your asset anywhere in the world. And you can bring it anywhere in the world with you. Just borderless money. When I say money, I mean asset money. Some countries are considering it a currency, so it's somewhere between currency and asset right now with Bitcoin, leaning 90% towards being an asset. But the other utility of Bitcoin is that you can leverage it. There's more and more institutions allowing you to leverage your Bitcoin, where you put your Bitcoin up and you can get fiat against it and never declare a capital gain. So if you bought Bitcoin on the dip and you got in at, say, 28,000, and now it's at 46,000, and you go, you know what? I don't want to sell and declare that capital gain where it went up almost 20K from where I bought it. I want to leverage it. I need some cash flow for my business, or I have this idea, or whatever it might be. I need to pay rent, whatever it might be. You can not sell your Bitcoin, not declare a capital gain, and use your Bitcoin from cold storage and send it in and get leverage, get a wire of fiat back, and then leverage your Bitcoin so you never declared that capital gain. Once you pay off the loan, you get your exact amount of Bitcoin back. Regardless if it went up or down, you get the same amount of Bitcoin back once you pay off the loan. That situation is very elegant. So to be your own reserve bank for free, or for the cost of $100 cold storage, and then on top of that, to be able to leverage this asset in the future so you can travel with it and have the ability to be a reserve bank in the ether, so to speak, which is just mind-boggling once you finally get down the funnel of Bitcoin and you realize just how much potential it has. And then the ability to leverage it as well. Those two things are incredible for companies, incredible for the individual citizens. It's very, very useful technology. And I looked at Bitcoin so skeptical in the very beginning. I mean, you could go back my channel and watch these videos I posted when I first started the channel a little bit over a year ago. This is back, like I said, when Bitcoin was 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50, all the way up to 60. I made videos saying I'm still bullish and still buying Bitcoin. I was buying all the way up. I've been dollar cost averaging. It's called, the DCA. If you hear somebody saying I'm DCAing and hodling Bitcoin, it means dollar cost averaging and holding Bitcoin in cold storage and not selling any of your Bitcoin. I'm not selling any of my Bitcoin, and I'm continuing to buy Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin more than gold personally right here. That doesn't take anything away from gold being a storage of wealth. It just, to me, I think gold is a much faster horse in the race here. And again, if I have to choose between gold or silver, in the first place, I'm much more bullish on silver. Silver being in my opinion, much better choice between the two and has way more potential. When I look at the pullback here in silver, and I look at silver sitting there down, it's just wild to me to see 23 silver at the beginning of all of this. When the markets crashed, silver had fallen all the way to 12. So it's still up quite a bit from the beginning of when it all pulled back. But to see silver right now at 23.63 after all of this money printing, you just got to see through the smoke and mirrors of it all. And I think that there's just a situation here where it's either it makes no sense to see a dollar index at 93 after all of this printing and to see precious metals falling like this. To me, I see it as a big buying opportunity. Specifically for me personally, not financial advice. Again, I'm more interested in platinum and silver here. Those are the two that I find to be extremely undervalued myself. I'm not very interested in gold, knowing that gold, the majority of that cap. So if you were, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but say gold got its monetary aspect of it stripped away. And this is, again, I'm not saying this, but just say we took that away, gold would be somewhere around 2-3 trillion on the market cap if you're only relying on its utility value in the current market today. Now, if that happened, would they start using gold more? Probably, but it still would lose so much of its price because the cap is so high based on the monetary aspect of gold. Now, if that moved, if it just a trillion of it went into Bitcoin, could double, more than double Bitcoin's price. Just 1 trillion of that 12, 11 trillion, which I think we're seeing that happening right now. I think we're seeing some institutions starting to sell off their gold, realizing that gold doesn't have as much potential based on how high of a market cap it is, based on the fact that the central banks already have gold and they're not really, wanting to see it go up in price when they can just print money at will like they have been doing. Bitcoin is just that early tech company where, it's so small in the market cap that any little thing can get this thing to double. It's just so fast. And that's what's made me so bullish about Bitcoin over gold. I think I've covered all the things I wanted to cover in this video. This was a little bit of a longer video, 26 minutes. It's been a while, so I'm a little rusty, so bear with me a little bit. But I wanted to go over the details on why I think gold is pulling back here. And I really wanted to stress the market caps. Not everybody seems to be talking about the market caps, but that is huge to me. To get the needle to move with silver, to get the needle, when we're talking about platinum and palladium, you're talking a market cap in the hundreds of billions, right? I think palladium and platinum's market cap combined is under $1 trillion. I know it is. It's somewhere around like 750 combined billion in comparison to gold's 12 trillion. So when you think about it, it's like if you're trying to find the fastest horses in the race, we might be in a situation here where there's $900 trillion of assets worldwide. Plenty of these the money in the worldwide assets to go into precious metals and Bitcoin and have both of them rise. But once that starts happening and that starts flooding into the space, and this includes collectibles, artwork, watches, all tangibles as well, it's almost like you're betting on horses in the race right now. And because Bitcoin is so new and so unique, and having the first asset that is this large, the first asset that's over 500 billion that is completely closed looped and is, as Michael Saylor would say, something dynamic. My brain, I do these with no editing, so bear with me. Thermodynamic is the thing you said, or closed looped. It's a closed loop system where it ends at 21 million. It's the first time that we know exactly how much of an asset will be made, and it doesn't matter how much demand is there. The miners can't make more than 21 million. It just ends. We don't exactly know how much silver is out there. We don't exactly know how much gold is out there, even platinum or palladium. But with Bitcoin, it's this one unique situation here where we know exactly how much there can be. So that gives this incentive to these miners to go big on Bitcoin because they know that it's a modern day gold rush, so to speak, because we know exactly how much is out there and we see the demand and we see the on-ramp being so easy. That on-ramp thing, I really want to stress that. It is such a big deal. And the other thing I want to stress is that these miners want to keep their Bitcoin they're mining. Gold miners aren't doing the same. They're dumping it. They're mining it and dumping it. So again, if I have to choose between all of it, I'm still exactly where I started. I like silver and Bitcoin. I like platinum and Bitcoin. That's where I'm at. I also like palladium. So my top holdings, again, silver, Bitcoin, platinum, palladium. Gold is very, very small at the very end. If you go through my videos, I've said the same thing over and over again. So to all my silver stackers out there, I think it's a ridiculous value here. I think silver is ridiculous. If I'm buying something in the tangible realm, silver is my top choice. Next up would be platinum. Palladium is very interesting, although it's really high right now. There's been 8 years. I've done a palladium video, and if you want to go back to my palladium video, just go to the channel, and I did a video on palladium specifically. So if you want more information on palladium, that'd be the better place to go. But 8 years in a deficit where the demand is exceeding the supply with palladium. That to me is why the market is holding that 27K or 2,700 rather price on palladium, where gold has pulled back quite a bit. That's the situation that I think we're in. I think that there are people looking at gold right now and finding better opportunities to put the money. Maybe they're getting into real estate. Maybe they want to get more Bitcoin. Maybe they find silver to be a better investment like I do. That is what I think is going on with gold. And so that's why I made this video, gold versus Bitcoin versus silver, because I wanted to go over the three and why they're so different. The industrial precious metals, it's so crazy. When you add all the industrial precious metals market caps, I believe it's even under 2 trillion. So of all the other options out there that are industrial precious metals that are actually getting eaten up by demand, and it's getting harder and harder to import, export this with everything that's going on, why are they so undervalued? It only makes so much sense to see gold fall a little bit while they're finding these better opportunities. Again, it could be real estate, could be a business thing. Wherever they're putting their money, they see better opportunities than gold right now. Could that change in the long term? Absolutely. And I think that it's very easy to think that this 900 trillion could easily flood in, and then Bitcoin might be a faster horse, silver might be a faster horse than gold, and then gold might still go up with all of it, but just be a little bit of a slower horse. That's what I think of it all. I hope this video helped you in some way, because I know all of us are trying to search for answers on why gold is falling like this, why silver is falling like this. I think they just kind of fall in unison right now, but between the two, I just think silver and platinum, to add platinum into the mix, wow. I will always want tangibles in addition to my Bitcoin. A lot of the Bitcoin maximalists are like, oh, just go all in on Bitcoin, all in on Bitcoin. I got to have some sort of tangible. And if I'm going to get a tangible, I'm going towards industrial precious metals. So I still have the same thesis. My hands are silver and platinum hands, not diamond hands, because diamonds, they lose value pretty quick. But I've stayed the same. I still have the same conviction with Bitcoin. I still have the same conviction with silver, and I still have the same conviction with platinum. And I think right now, as a major opportunity, I still am a buyer of Bitcoin. Even here at 46K, I'm still a buyer of silver all along. At 30, I was a buyer. At 12, I was a buyer. At 18, I'm a buyer. 25, I'm a buyer. 23.63, I'm a buyer. I just think that it is a great place to park money. I consider it my bank. So that's the whole video. You guys know I'll ramble a little bit. I appreciate you all being here. If you found some useful information, please do hit a like. Really would appreciate it. It helps get these videos out there. Let me know what you think of the new set. Put a lot of work into this over the last couple weeks here. And I want you to know that I'm still here, just been working quite a bit and have a lot on my plate right now, but I am going to be getting to a consistent schedule where I start making multiple videos per week rather, and I'm really looking forward to that. So please do subscribe, click that red subscribe somewhere in the corner over here, and I will see you at the next video. Signing out.